прошлогоднего ПХ-действ, в общем-то, такой красивый.
I have here a piece from last year's PH Days, and my daughter loves it. Jan Hachaturov, thank you for this integration for this broadcast. Was it interesting? Do you think about how technologies work, how it all operates? The guys are right. We do not understand how these technologies actually function. But here you can learn more about that if you have access to Positive Labs tent. We just had people talking to us from there, and we will have more sessions like that. So let's start with the main topic that we've already announced. And that's the main topic, not only at this stage at Kulybin, but in the world of Russian IT in general. This autumn, we're going to have the premiere of the first film about reverse engineering, about those people who crack and hack hardware and talk about how it works. Let's look at the teaser. Well, actually, our world has been conceived by humans, people who were focusing on certain problems. Well, reverse is understanding how a system is structured without access to the initial code and to how it was made. Reverse engineering is a profession which is not taught anywhere. In my view, in order to understand, to do reverse engineering, you need to have a question that you want to get an answer to. Usually, it's like research. For me, reverse engineering is a way of life. I live through reverse engineering. I use this approach to the world. Finding this bit of memory and changing it and seeing how the software is made. You can actually compare it to an unlocking device. Reverse engineering is a way of learning things that they haven't told you. How to get access to everything. Reverse engineering. Isn't it beautiful? Those who were just on the screen are going to be here at this stage. Kulybin, let's start with the moderator of this discussion, the managing director of Positive Technology and the organizer of this festival, Vladimir Zapolansky. Please greet him. Vladimir, may I announce it? I would like to co-moderate this session with you. I've been moderating it for some time. Dmitry Sklarov, the main organizer of the biggest cyber festival in Russia. We've just seen you on the screen. Head of research of security for hardware solutions, the person who's in charge of Positive Labs tent, Alexey Usanov. Hi, Alexey. Another person I know well, Sergey Golovanov, the chief expert of Kaspersky Labs. And Dmitry Gadar, vice president of T-Bank Cybersecurity Department, and Vladimir Alshinin, the director of this film. Please greet these people. Hi, everyone. Today we have the first discussion from the stage. We've just watched the teaser, and it was really interesting to hear the comments of the guys. My voice is the weirdest, and I look weird because, yeah, right. It's very unusual to look at yourself from the screen. And let's talk today about what it is, what the film is, why we're making it, and how to get access to everything. That's the title of the name of the movie that will be on in September. I'll start with things that Alexei has already talked about in this video before our session, but not. Let's listen to Alexei live. Reverse engineering sounds complex, and we don't use this phrase very often in our regular life. So what is it? Let's try and translate it into Russian. It's reverse code development, reverse engineering. So you have engineering, creation of something out of pieces. A program is a software is compiled of binary pieces, or, for instance, a computer is made of components as well. So we take something that was created by people, by humans, and we are taking that object to pieces in order to understand how this object operates and what it consists of. So it's the reverse process. There's a lot of detail to this process, but basically it's the way of discovering how things are made and why they are made in this way. Question. When we were talking before shooting the film, you were saying that there are people who are thinking in the category of assembling, and there are people who are thinking through the approach of disassembling things. Can you talk about that, about these two groups? Answer. Well, I think there are fewer people who think about the world through the way of disassembling things, because, well, for instance, I like taking things to pieces. Creating is a very attractive process as well, but I've always liked taking things to part. And for instance, my son is the same. And right now I create things, but he takes them to pieces. But do you feel that you create through hacking, through taking things to pieces? Yes, because I create new knowledge. A question to the director. What is this film about? Why have you picked this name, and how do you define the objective of this film? Answer. Well, when we were starting out, I knew nothing about reverse engineering. It was a black box for me. Well, we can talk about engineering in a film. Right. But once we started getting deeper into this topic, I started seeing very interesting people, and I think this film is about people who work there, about this profession. And Alexei has just said about that there are people who like disassembling things, and I like this spirit of research. That's what the film is about. It's about the way these people think and how this thinking functions within the world of cybersecurity. Why have you picked this name? Answer. Well, I was trying to find an association to reverse engineering. A reverse engineer. That's a person who can penetrate into any system by studying them, into any hardware. So that's a person, a key, that acts like a key that can penetrate anything to do something according to their objectives. And of course, here we talk about ethics and security too. Question about objectives. What do you think? You've published a movie, you've created a movie, and it is being broadcast. And in a year, what will be the objective that you aim for? Answer. A good question. I think I want young people to get interested in that, and I want them to see a pathway to this new profession, because when I started studying it, I was asking people what reverse engineering is, and no one could answer. There were very few people who knew something about it. And of course, in a year, I want this film to
этот вопрос,
to
чтобы
produce
просто отвечали, а
this effect for people to be able to answer what reverse engineering is, or at least
профессия.
for them to understand that we are all researchers, so we all do that in a way. Okay, Dmitry Sklarov, as reverse engineer, what do you think are the objectives that you set for this movie?
Володя все правильно сказал, что
Well, I think Vladimir said it right. I want people to understand what it is, and that this is a process that can bring a lot of joy. Because
Леша, правда,
I do that because I like it. Alexei said that he likes cracking things, and I like understanding things. I take an object and I want to know how it operates. I don't want to disassemble it per se, but I want to understand how it operates and to learn how to use it better. And you can actually use this approach
юристы это делают.
for anything. For software, lawyers do that with laws, psychologists do that to the content of people's minds. So this analytical approach to the world around you actually gives a lot of added value. And I hope that this movie will help people to see that that's an approach they can use as well. Because we have courses that where you can learn reverse engineering, but actually they can give you just the foundation, the basics that will not make you a reverse engineer. Reverse engineering is a lifestyle that you practice at home, at work, everywhere.
Говорим о как раз примерах
Dmitry,
жизни.
let's talk about regular life examples. Where can we see the
Или реверс.
products or effects of reverse engineering around us without being a reverse engineer per se? Answer, well, that's a complex question. While you were saying that, I was actually thinking about reverse engineering as a lifestyle. Well, I think indeed it's a way of thinking. And I was thinking that people here, they are thinking in that way. Reverse engineering is about understanding things, not about cracking things. And for instance, I cannot memorize a thing if I don't understand them. For instance, back in high school, I couldn't learn a poem if I didn't understand what it means. So if I don't go to the atomic level, I would just forget it in a matter of seconds because my brain couldn't use it. So that's how it started for me. If we talk about regular life, I like Robert Sokolsky. He's a neurobiologist, a psychologist, and he reverses human brains a lot. He analyzes behavior. So he reverses human behavior to microcomponents, to specific components in people's minds. He breaks it up to genes. He goes to the level of genes, and that's the behavioral reverse engineering that, well, probably it's not about daily life, but there is a big by Sokolsky that is called Everything Solved. And it talks about the world that is fully determined and there is no free will. So this talk about free will, it looks like it's very relevant to us here.
В своей области, где это применяется.
Question. And what about banking? Where do you see reverse engineering there? Answer. In many aspects. If we take it narrower to the classic definition of reverse engineering, for instance, there we can look at patch difference, we can look at what was made, we could look at the system before patching and after patching, and that can be used for investigations of attack incidents and to writing exploits. That's not a recommendation for how you can search for 0 days, but 0 days actually cease to exist when you have a patch, but when a patch is released, exploit becomes available because reversing a patch to see how to write an exploit, that's not hard. reverse engineering is something that you use automatically to understand what penetrates through the perimeter. We reverse malware to write our rules. So we use software composition analysis. We use reverse engineering there to understand what is it in that binary or in that component to understand how safe they are. I can list things for a long time. We use reverse techniques. We use reversing a lot. Oh, for instance, we have NeuroShield. For instance, as a client of T-Mobile, if you talk on the phone and the AI analyzes the sound wave, just the sound wave, not without the context, and it reverses it. And if it understands that that's a criminal, the AI either stops the call or is it the intonation that it uses to identify a criminal? No, that's a problem of reversing models. It's either me who doesn't understand how to do that, or we don't have reverse engineering techniques that we can apply to AI. Probably that's the next generation of problems, because we'll have to work with that. To understand how a specific model operates and what it will respond next time. I don't know the methods for that, but what I described is performed by a model, and this model tries to find the shortest way of hitting the objective, and probably criminals say one and the same things, so there are patterns of dialogues that they use, and it's not about the emotion. They use speech patterns to analyze that. Okay, Sergey, question to you. Reverse engineering and hacking. What are the common things? What are the differences? What are the... For common things, for common things, there was an incident, a company was hacked, the data was encrypted, and software was completely down, nothing worked. So the question was, of course, how that happened, how a hacker penetrated into the system. So we started recovering data, and I found a Trojan. I found a hole and a DRL that was somewhere where it wasn't supposed to be. There were no zeros in the file, so it wasn't packed. What was it packed with? And then I saw that I see a VM protect. And at 3 a.m., of course, I couldn't reverse it because I don't know what it does. Then I tried to look at it through different tools. I tried to see how it worked. I couldn't unpack it, so I thought that, okay, when I go back to the office, I'll use my computer to reverse it. And then I looked at what else I extracted. And then I saw that the hacker who hacked the system, he had actually the same pain. The DLL couldn't be started. He actually added another one, and it didn't work either. And the third file that wasn't unpacked, that wasn't packed, worked. And that third file was without any protection, without anything. And what I was looking for is the indicator of compromising. So I created the name of the service, name of the file. I got connected to the IP, to the domain, and that took an hour or two, same time that it took for a hacker to understand why his code didn't work. So I took this IP to understand what other computers this Trojan accessed. I found another 120 computers, and I continued working with even more diligence. So answering your questions, where are the common places? Well, in this incident, we had common pains. Thanks. And I actually have a similar example. 20 years ago, we had an incident, and during this incident, there was ransomware that encrypted data, because encryptors, they
Что делать? Ну, также зашифровывать.
existed always, I think. So there was a machine that was encrypted completely. We didn't know what to do with it. So what we did, I think that was brilliant. We took
Место расположения одного
a piece, we took
примерно в
a
начале
place
копиком DLL, но
of a file that was in the beginning, copycom DLL, one of the libs that
просто сложили
sits in some
получили
understandable place of a hard disk. We extracted
тут же написали как бы
the gamma that was used for encryption. It had a certain
длину гаммы,
sequence. We
периодичностью этой гаммы шифра.
modeled
Не антишифровать.
the sequence of
И распаковали обратно все
the encryption code, and we
шифрованные. Вот пример реверса.
decrypted all the computers that were encrypted, and that helped us to save this reversing. Helped us to save all the computers. Hence the name of the movie.
Аппаратным
Okay,
программным, каким образом
Alexei, you go for hardware reversing, and Dmitry, you do software reversing. And where is the watershed between these two?
Почему я не занимаюсь аппаратным реверсом? Потому что в юные годы
I can explain why I don't go for hardware reversing, because
резервную копию и спокойно
I very quickly understood that it's easy to break hardware. Probably Alexei was bolder than me, and he's not afraid of breaking hardware, so he does that. Talking about how our two worlds interact, well, there is a real story when we were looking at one piece of industrial hardware. One attacking team broke it, but no one could understand how that happened.
проблема, но мы не можем ее...
And then we saw that there is a flaw in that piece of hardware, but we couldn't identify it because we didn't know what happened. And then a person came who said, did you try taking away flash memory? So we took it out, and in a week we managed to understand what happened. The access to hardware level gives
которые занимаются чисто софтовым.
advantage for software analysis as well.
Боюсь ломать. Я еще и получаю удовольствие от этого.
Right. I'm not only not afraid to break hardware, I actually enjoy it. Dmitry said it right.
Из каких-то там вычислительных модулей.
Hardware
И
consists of
занимаемся тем, что
computing modules, computing units, and
потому что зачастую
microschemes, and we try to hack it at the basic level, because hardware is the root of
любой софт
trust to your system. If you don't trust your hardware, any software can be compromised there.
железа это
So the entry point at the level of hardware is very
инжиниринга. И
interesting for a researcher, for a reverse engineer, and it's very scary for a manufacturer, because it means that this piece of hardware can be hacked or copied or do something scary,
занимаемся тем, что
compromise the user of this hardware.
аппаратные блоки, которые есть,
So we look
даже опускаемся на уровень
at
чипов, то есть смотрим, как сломать,
the hardware
достать из
that sits inside the machine, and we look at chips and at how we can extract information, data from it, how we can decapsulate it, how we can highlight certain things with lasers, how we can
вытащить ключи АЕС, потому что на самом деле, например,
read the bands of
чипа
energy consumption and extract AAS.
схема фактически, он потребляет какое-то
Because as this is a scheme of power supply, it consumes a certain amount of electricity. And if we
сядет в тетрадочку,
analyze how much energy is used by a certain
много всяких формул,
crypto block, and then
он скажет,
if this expert uses a formula to recover the model, then
бессмысленно,
you can recover the bytes of the encrypting code.
довольно приятно.
if you manage to
расшифровать прошивку,
recover and restore this code, you can get the keys to decrypt the system. You can give this code to Dmitry to understand how this
Наверное,
hardware works.
чаще с другими штуками, когда там есть
And probably you had different experience when you need to get the key, but
какой-то из элементов
the final
говорит «да»,
element of the hardware says yes,
как бы
and you consider it as the correct check
криптографического преобразования.
for the cryptographic
Это не
change.
наверное, но
It's not exactly reverse engineering,
токенов, короче, на токены, которые
but it's more about working with the token
и нюансы, когда можно эту крипту
and
достать.
different
Я на мысли,
nuances.
я занимался
And here
криптоанализом. Писал,
I was working with cryptanalysis,
как это сказать, быстрые реализации там некоторых
fast implementation,
протоколов. Ну, то есть
of
математических
specific protocols, let's say.
и, быстрая реализация. И,
There is a
так
quick implementation of this encryption, and it so happened that
которые быстро очень
when you needed to create a single function,
этой функции работали
a
просто
separate tags of that function worked 10 times faster compared to other developers. And then you start to work on a different project, and its performance dropped significantly. And probably it was because of the hardware and memory allocation. Well, maybe you had to
глубоко под землей,
clear cache and delete cookies.
Positive Labs. Я хочу тебя сейчас спросить, действительно,
There
это
is Positive Labs deep down under earth,
лаборатория, которая находится
and
действительно глубоко под землей. Не знаю почему.
it's very, very deep, and I'm not sure why it's so deep buried underground. And when you go there, you can see disassembled computers, very weird hardware, different jackhammers, a lot of
различного типа. Что вы с этим
oscillographs,
наслаждаемся.
X-rays. What do you do with this? So how does it work? Why do you need this for reverse engineering?
Это как раз
So this is Positive Labs. It's a group of laboratories
исследованием, в том числе с помощью реверс-инжиниринга,
that uses reverse engineering
девайсы.
for different electronic devices.
У тебя
And car are actually electronic devices, just a big electronic devices when we're talking about modern cars, modern automobile.
большая часть
They have a significant part of the car being an electronic device, not just a mechanical one.
мы окружены
And we work with machines, we work with different devices, and we are immersed in this world, and we don't really see this. And it's very expensive.
контроллер, который
It's much easier to take a microcontroller,
15-летний давности,
which can work just as good as a 15-year-old smartphone. You get it a battery,
всё это
and it will work for a few days.
кнопкой.
And all that will be
То есть это
controlled by a single push of a button. All that is very excessive power, but people are accustomed to this.
схему, которая там
But if you want to do the same
логики обычной,
thing
сейчас уже
that will run
это будет очень дорого.
the lamp on the specific discrete logic, it will be very massive. So people are just accustomed to things which are way too complex for the functions they perform.
лаборатории под землей. У нас
And I will tell you about these laboratories underground.
один раз банкомат ломали. И
We actually had to get into the ATM machine
килограмм на квадратный метр.
and you do underground because it's much easier to do these operations underground. ATM machine is actually very
Для реверса единственное место, куда
very heavy. When we needed an ATM machine for reverse engineering, we did this
в подвале внизу
in a cellar, because in cellar
бетонная подушка, на котором стоит здание.
you have this concrete,
То сразу отправить.
and if anything happens with ATM machine when you try to get inside, it might actually fall down. If you do it in a normal building, it may fall down from third floor to the second floor. It will not be very good. But if you do it in the cellar or underground, there is nothing else to fall down. Well, maybe except to hell. But this is what usually happens. And we had an incident where some guy approached an ATM machine,
вставляет провод.
drills a hole in this ATM machine,
И вопрос к экспертам был,
and
как он это
the
делает.
ATM machine just gave it the money. So the experts asked, what happens there, and we were completely taken aback. We had no idea why this happened, and we had to take a voltmeter, get into this ATM machine, look through this mapping, and it actually works with 9 bits. I know 8 bits because I played NES, I played Nintendo when I was a kid. But ATM machines use 9 bits, and I was not aware of 9 bits systems. When you order the sum in the ATM machine solves a quadratic equation. And the reason for that is that they have 1,000, 5,000 bills, and they had to calculate how do they give you 19,500 if they have different bills. So as a result, we had different tools. We had a battery. You just have to connect to the lamp. You send a single digit, and the ATM machine will give you as much money as you want. And this is what happened. And they actually, all they did was use a single AAA battery to get all that money from ATM machine. Now, reverse engineering and ethics. What's your point of view? Is it ethical to do reverse engineering? When I studied at the university, during the philosophy, I was told that scholars and scientists do not work in terms of ethics. If they have a problem to provide enough food for the population, there are 2 ways. You can either increase the food or decrease the population. And real scientists don't really deal with ethics. But since reverse engineers are actual people and they have morals, they may not do what they consider wrong. So where do we have this cross-section between hardware and software engineering, reverse engineering? In many IT industries, people have similar skills, but you have different results. People who hack and people who protect from being hacked, they practically have the same skill sets, but they have different morals, they have different ethics. And for me, it's very important not to get on the dark side. It's very hard to come back from it. They pay more, but you also lose your soul in the process. And what I try to do is not to get into this dark side at all. They pay you a lot, but you remain dependent on these people for forever. Basically, for me, it's the same as you go and work for special forces in any country. You get access to very special technologies, but you will be bound for life. And that's why I wanted to remain free, and that's why I do not want to deal with unethical reverse engineering. And in terms of the legislature, we have different laws. We have a number of laws in the penal code. And basically it says that there is some leeway. If you get access to someone else's system, this is not a crime, but if you copy a database, that's a crime. And if you did this accidentally, that's still a crime, because you violated the law and because this is what the law says. I'm an engineer, I work with lawyers, but I have a different mindset. Lawyers think in legal framework, and legal framework is very different from engineer framework. And you have to consult with lawyers in order to understand what is a violation of law and what is not. Reverse engineering, when you have an agreement with the company, so for example, the company provides equipment for me, this is a lawful activity because we have a contract. Where do you study to become a reverse engineer? And you have your point of view, you have your experience on the topic. Maybe you can recommend some kind of courses, practicum? Maybe just speak about your experience. Where do you start?
Мнение, что научить реверс
My opinion is that
только научиться.
you cannot learn
Люди склонны синтезу
from someone, you have to learn on your own.
анализа примерно 5%. Соответственно, к
And I would say that there are about 5% of people who are prone to analysis. So we have, let's say, 10 to 5% of people who can become software developers, and of those, about 5% can become software engineers who work with reverse engineers. And if you do this day after day, if you are just interested in this, you may become a very good reverse engineer in maybe 10 years. I'm not sure if we have this diploma, if this is taught in universities. Well, maybe they have some courses, you might have the paper, but you will not be a real reverse engineer. And still, if you want to reverse engineer hardware, software, obviously you have to know their components. If you want to reverse engineer hardware, you have to know all the components, how does it operate, basically
Но на самом деле без практики
completely disassemble it, know everything, how it works, and then assemble it. But obviously in practice it's kind of pointless. If you do something you don't like, is not very good idea.
человек сам найдет.
And when you like it, you will find a way to
Несколько книжек.
you will find a way how to do this.
Так, Серег.
And obviously you can read books. There are books written by
Это ненаказуемо.
engineers. And I must say that if you do this for yourself, this is not a crime, and it's true. And we have younger generation here. Do you play video games? Well, do we have people who play video games? In your video games, you have different resources, maybe gems, golds, whatever. And you want to win the game and get the unlimited amount of gold.
Да, золото. Но это же, собственно говоря,
But this is a video game. This is a software. It's a program. How do they calculate the amount of gold you have? Maybe on the phone, maybe on the computer. It doesn't really matter.
маны.
Are you curious about this or not? Do you want to have unlimited access of mana, health, gold? Well, obviously, read the books, and you'll be able to do that.
Собственно говоря, начинал, и
This is where I started,
это был мой путь, и компьютерные игры
and this was my
способ, чтобы
path.
не потерять
I
интерес.
started with video games so that it would
Где-то с полгода назад
nurture my interest. And
какую-то либу, потому что ему нужны были бабки в игре.
my son actually hacked some league because
Те деньги.
he wanted to get more resources in the game, and he just hacked in and he put the number he wanted. But yeah, this is a joke, and
Что такое быть без...
reverse engineering is just the same as how do you want to become a security person. You have to be interested in this. It's more about your mindset and approach to life and continuous development.
С компанией Т-банк и Позитив делают совместный курс в Центральном университете, куда можно...
There is a joint course in the Central University with Positive Technologies and T-Bank, where you can get some initial steps like reverse engineering 101. So we can give you this initial foundation. But what will you do later? So if you think that you can become an expert just listening to lectures, well, this will not happen. You have to be very practical. You have to get real life experience. And you can see in this, in our industry, you can actually see who can speak and who can actually do. There are different courses, free courses.
Ну, то есть 160
And
прошло. Что это за 160?
we had
Путь у них дальше будет.
about
Зависит только от них.
8,600 people who registered for free courses, and about 160 people passed. So I do not really know about those 150, 160 people. We will see about their experience later on.
Именно на эту же тему. Можешь
Vladimir, question to you.
вот за те
The final question. Can you say that
ты занимался разработкой,
in those few months where you worked
сейчас находится,
on the script,
что что ты как-то проникся к этой
that you were able to
и вообще
get into inside of this profession. So what are your feelings about this profession, about the whole situation?
И когда начал погружаться в эту всю историю, я понял, что
When I
отчасти
started to delve into this
где-то
story,
занимаюсь реверс-инженерингом.
I understand that I'm also a reverse engineer myself because I study people.
Режиссура, да,
I study fates because direction is all about fates, it's all about people. We had Hollywood
смотрели, как
movies coming to Russia. We watched the movies, we analyzed and over-analyzed movies and scenes and tried to decompose them into different elements. And this is also a way of reverse engineering something. And here I can see a lot of different devices. And I can see that those devices,
как аппаратная, так и программная. Там очень много программных штук.
obviously they have hardware things and software. And I was really amazed and impressed by this. And in terms of security, I saw that you need reverse engineering in this particular case.
Да, и каждый раз происходит. Я когда узнал, с кем
There are many different
это в прямом
discoveries, and
смысле я чуть-чуть обалдел от этого, потому что
when this happens, I was actually taken aback, but by
умов
the quantity
профессиональных людей
and by the sheer number of experts.
сталкивался с этим.
I never had this kind of experience. So many smart people in the same room, and
на профессию реверс-инженера,
thank you. And we had a look
технологического
at the reverse engineering profession
что даже в режиме
from
подходе действительно ты же в общем
from the technical side, from the directing side. And it is true, maybe we are reverse souls and minds of people. And you use this approach. You see something, you analyze, you decompose it, you understand how it works, and then based on this, you create something new. So look for the movie, how to get access to everything. It will be available in September online and in cinema. The first movie about reverse engineering. And we had many experts in this movie, and thank you for your attention.
Можно я еще раз вас представлю? Друзья, вам разреверсили мотор?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Что же было? Как вы говорили там до патча?
it was great. We had
Оказывается, существует. Я думаю, что в радиусе
actually learned about 9-bit systems, and it was great listening to a panel.
абсолютно
And people who probably will buy all this AA, AAA batteries and will go and try and hack
все хорошо.
local ATM machines. So once again, give a round of applause to Vladimir Zapolyansky,
Руководитель отдела
to Dmitry Sklarov from Positive Technologies,
аппаратных решений Positive Technologies и тот самый,
To-
который управляет шатром Posi Labs.
to the person who controls this scene, Alexei Usanov, to Alexei Golovanov from Kaspersky Laboratory,
Спасибо большое. Дмитрий Гадарь, настоящий рок-н-ролл.
Dmitry Gadar,
Директор
the
департамента.
Vice President, Director of the Department of IT for Terbank, and Vladimir Arshinin, Director, the person who I really am really jealous of. And thank you very much for your attention. Wait for the premiere in September. And